oh boy, bugging it. Let's go racing, baby. Oh. It's best day of the week, Dave. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you all day. It's the best day of the week, boys. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. It is, in fact, the best day of the week, and as you can tell, we are still removed outside of our normal studio. We are here in Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's been an incredible trip thus far. I have been off the grid. People are trying to get a hold of me. It's been impossible because I've got no service. But we do, however, here at High Top, have ourselves a fire guy. And our fire guy did an incredible job keeping us nice and toasty here because we are on the back deck. It's a nice big deck back here here in Blue Ridge. The place is beautiful. It's been a fun trip. Did a little bit of hiking, did a little bit of frisbee golf. It's been fan-freaking-tastic. But while I've been away, figuring we had a week or two, of some coolness until we hit spring ball, which is starting tomorrow, thought I had some time. I was mistaken. We got a lot of things to talk about: recruiting, coaching changes, Florida victorious. What are we looking for in spring ball? Numbers and weights came out today. People are going left and right, getting bananas as they normally do. Gators basketball's on a burner. Let's dive right into it, boys and girls. Mr. David Swolerquist is in the building. What's up, big dog?
Oh, just another slow news week here. But, of course, we got me and you, Shelton, on the ones and twos. And, hey, watch out, High Top. I just report the news.
This guy, he's hooked up. He's fired and ready to rock and roll. Boys and girls, it has been a fantastic week here. A lot of your comments in the previous Spurrier video, you guys were, oh, it's a beautiful area, love it, blah, 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 blah. Appreciate your comments and your love for up here in North Georgia. It's been beautiful. I love it up here. It's cool. We're 15 minutes away from Tennessee, so we went to Tennessee yesterday, had some lunch, had some brews, so it's been a good time, man. It's been a good time. But like you said, it's been a slow week, but we got some stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, like you're up there in Blue Ridge, and my mother-in-law, she lives in Jasper. That's close to Blue Ridge, and one of my buddies, the sign guy, actually, White and Sons Wood Carving, he lives up there in Jasper too. So Blue Ridge is pretty close to that. And I know some of those sights and sounds. Actually, when I was before we started the show, when I was a younger cat in my earlier 20s, I did pest control route through up there. So. Yeah, man. I mean, Blue Ridge is very, very nice. It's a very mountain-esque area, so you get a lot of good views up there and such. So I'm kind of jealous a little bit.
Views been nice. You can't see it right now, but they have been great. But let's look. We have had some changes. We had some guys leave. We had some changes on the offensive line. Those things have been replaced. We've got Rodney Hill coming in. He's looking to take the role of what Miles Tyler, left. So he's taking over that role. Not a big hire, but just letting you guys know of that adjustment. And then Jonathan DeCoster, I'm not quite sure, is coming in to fill in the shoes of Darnell Stapleton. So nothing big splashes. Again, they're not really big roles big shoes that needed to be filled, but filled nonetheless. And this reminds me when we had the conversation with Zach Goodall when he was on the show of what was he thinking would be most likely thing to happen to fill in that extra on the field position with the Darnell Stapleton leaving, and he felt that we would have another second offensive line coach, and sure enough, here we do, bringing in Mr. Jonathan DeCoster. Your thoughts on this, Dave? We try to look at some quotes for these guys. We ain't got much. There's not much out there on these gentlemen.
I mean, he's got an extensive track record. He was at the University of Nevada, West Virginia State, Louisiana State University as a graduate assistant tight ends coach there. He had Old Dominion University as a tight ends coach there. Cleveland Browns got his first stint in the NFL there as the offensive quality control coach, and now he comes over here to be the co-offensive line coach. And I know a lot of people, got rid of Stapleton, and they said, okay, well, all we needed was one O-line coach. Billy said, nah, we ain't doing that. We're still getting two O-line coaches. So he brings this guy in, and of course, I guess if he meshes well with Rob Sale and everybody else, and I mean, we hear a lot of these recruits and saying that, hey, Florida's kind of a premier place for some offensive linemen to come there because we like the fact that they have two offensive line coaches. Fletcher Westphal was very vocal about having two offensive line coaches and him coming to the University of Florida. So, I mean, you look at offensive line recruiting and what I just said there, obviously it's a lot of 3 stars, not that many 4 stars, 5 stars. We got to get the star level up there. But, with Peyton Joseph coming into class and you're having these two O-line coaches, maybe things will kick up. Maybe DeCoster's a better recruiter than what we think. So you never know. You never know what he might add to the team.
Look, I think right now getting guys like this too. Darnell came in at a time where college football was still in a different landscape. He goes to the NFL, which you see a lot of guys going to the NFL now. Not that again this isn't new, but it seems a little bit more heavier than usual. You got to believe that the NIL plays a factor into that. This guy's coming from the NFL to college, so maybe he's like, look, I want to take a stab into that. Also, too, if you look at some of these guys, these O lines that we're recruiting after, they're giving Rob Sale a ton of praise. So I don't know if him and Billy had a heart to heart, like, hey, you got to lock it in, you got to dial it in, but he is getting a lot of love, which is good to hear. And again, Peyton Joseph is a phenomenal start to the class. It can't end there though. That has to be a big domino, but it has to follow suit with that. That can't be your only time not to. Because again, Fletcher Russell, in my opinion, is what Peyton Joseph is this year. We needed more complementing pieces to that. You know, I would have loved in a good way for Fletcher to be fighting for that top spot. But here we are nonetheless. We're rock and rolling. Speaking of recruiting, we're going to dive into some crystal balls, which is extremely early. Because we're going to talk about this as well, too. Vernell Brown, wide receiver, his father used to work with Billy, left to go be the general manager of Anthony Richardson. His son was just wilt-flonged today to go to Ohio State, which we were hearing good things about Vernell Brown for Florida, too. So this got everybody riled up like, Billy sucks. There's somebody who worked with Billy, who was closely associated with Billy. His own son won't go play with Billy. Like, what's going on with that? But we'll get into that. But the three right now that we're looking at that have been crystal balled, multitude of people, I think. Chris, what's his name? Chris Simmons?
Yeah, Chris Simmons.
The non director of recruiting, right? Just the reporter. He put in. I'm pretty sure he put the crystal ball in for Hilton Stubbs here, which is a top safety in the country.
I'm around, dude. It's Chad Simmons.
Chad Simmons. So we got Hilton Stubbs again. He's set to visit this weekend on an unofficial visit, and then you also said, Dave, that he's planning to visit more than likely for the spring game. This could be that Xavier Filsaime type somebody we had early on too. The same type of track record again. Had him in early. They committed. He actually committed the spring game. I was sitting with Dave at the game when it happened. We were prepared for it. We were ready to go. This seems to be that same type of that move, especially with DJ Pickett. But DJ Pickett, I don't know if anybody noticed. I saw this past week. I retweeted it. We're back in the top 5. We're in his top school again. You saw that?
Yeah. He released a top 5 that didn't have Florida in it, and then what was it like? Maybe a couple days later, a week later, he says, "Oh, well,
No. This was last week. This was like the last few days. So it's been like a month since that original list came out, I would say.
Okay, well, yeah, and then he makes an announcement that he will visit the University of Florida, and I can't remember what the tweet exactly said, but like you're just like, okay, well, I guess we are back in it. Maybe he talked to somebody or something had happened, but hey, you know what? Hey, I'll take it. It's a visit, and that means that there's interest there. So there has to be. You have to list Florida in your top schools, especially if you're going to visit them. So I'm all for that.
And look, I think recruiting is going to be, because of how it ended last year, it burned a lot of people. People are not going to be as excited or intrigued as we had. Like last year was a blast to follow. However, they did just move the signing date, that signing date in December before the transfer portal period, which I think is huge. I think they played a big factor, you're creating a lot of chaos when it doesn't need to be. So that got moved up. Obviously, still on the table is having that early signing day, I think in June or July. That has not been finalized, but they have officially moved the signing date in early December. So that did happen. So again, how much of a factor will it play? Now, not much, but come towards the end of the year, again, this thing is constantly evolving, constantly moving. It will definitely play a factor. So next up, we've got, what's his name? CJ Ingram. Right now, he's not rated on any other site besides on 3 as a 3-star athlete. He's like 6'4", 220, 230, I believe. Plays quarterback currently at Hawthorne High. Gives me Gregory Smith vibes all day. Again, he's rated as an athlete, not as a quarterback. So might see him move around this offseason. Don't forget, Joe Hayden came in as an athlete, as a quarterback, but athlete as well. This guy gives me more likely he'll probably play either that cornerback, safety / wide receiver role, depending on how they probably try to scope him out this year. But big size, again, lowly rated currently. I see him climbing up the scales this season though as the year goes on.
Yeah, and if you look back at last cycle, you can look at a prospect by the name of Gregory Smith. He was kind of that same size in that region, and he made quite the climb towards the end of the cycle. And, and usually around this year, I mean, like at the beginning of a cycle, especially still in March, you're going to have a lot of kids that still kind of really aren't ranked haven't been to camp. They haven't been scouted by anybody yet. So you're still going to find some people that are going to bounce back into there. If you notice at the beginning of the cycle, there's a lot of 4-stars, not that many 5-stars yet, because they don't expand that to like 32 or 33 towards like mid, I don't know, June, July, August, somewhere in there. I can't remember the
Sure.
exact date. Blake could tell me if he was here, but you know, that's how the recruiting cycle goes. So like somebody that's that size and obviously it looks like a college ready body already. Depending on where you put him as an athlete, this guy could play pretty well for you.
Yeah, so exactly. I think that's where the star ratings, and Gregory Smith was one of those guys that was probably lower rated because he wasn't playing the position that's best suited for him, but he ended up being a 4-star. 247 squeaked him in there. As I was going through it and looking, I was like, wow. And I'm high on Gregory Smith. Talking with Stephen Harris about him, looking at his size, watching some of his film, this kid is an absolute freak, and I'm pumped to see what he's able to do. And I think we got a steal on that one, in my opinion, last year with Gregory Smith. So another one we had, who was our guy last year at safety? Our Jordan Castle. Again, another one of those guys that came in late, had a late surge. Obviously, not a lot of people were looking at him. We saw the impact he made last year. So the last one is our Jarquez Carter, defensive lineman out of Newberry, right next to Gainesville there. This one I saw pop up kind of about a week or two ago with Gerald Chapman making some instant impact with them. It's out of UCF, Florida State, Miami are his top 4 schools right now. He's a 4-star guy on ESPN and Rivals, 3-star on the other sites. Again, I wouldn't look too much into this. 6'2", 270 defensive lineman. So we'll see how it plays out, but I love the fact that we were able to get that crystal ball in early. Again, I could see him making some jumps and leaps as the year goes on, getting close to that 4-star by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like it looks like it's going to be a big 3 battle there. Maybe Florida State jumps into the mix there as well with
Sure.
Miami UCF there. But I mean, like I said, it's so early right now. Even like I love looking at these crystal balls and it makes me feel nice. But like I always go back to the last cycle, and not even just PTSD of losing all those guys towards the end of the cycle. It's more of like looking at cycles beforehand and looking at so many names that have gotten crystal balls, and then they would get crystal ball somewhere else later on in the cycle. So, I mean, it is cool to have crystal balls on some of these guys, but like, let's wait a little bit. Let's wait till like, I guess maybe the summer, because a lot of kids like to commit in the summer. And I guess that's why they have that signing period there in the summer as well. So, but yeah, I mean, like, look, like Florida's making ground right now. And if you go to Swamp 24/7 or any of the other recruiting sites, I mean, they're still elite names wanting to come to Florida, regardless of the record. So that goes to show you that right now, staff knows how to recruit. If you could just get some wins on the record, man, like these classes could be elite, man. Like you look at last cycle, they had the number 3 class. The losses mounted, and of course it fell apart. But like, man, get a winning record in there, show some improvement. This could
It could be
really
fun.
good.
Yeah, look, I think a big thing too, like you said, you've got to be the optimistic side of this, the Disney Gator side of this, is given what happened, how things fell apart. The fact that I feel like we're right back where we were last year. When we were last year was in a very good, healthy place in recruiting. We seem to be trending that way again. Quarterback Ryan Montgomery was crystal ball to South Carolina today. That was somebody that Florida was in the mix for. We talked about that probably 2 shows ago, maybe a show ago, where it was between Ryan Montgomery and Antoine Hill. Antoine Hill is a big-time quarterback, was originally committed to Colorado, and now Florida has been heavily pursuing that. He is the quarterback of the same school that Peyton Joseph goes to. So you got to like the connection there. Could there, him being crystal ball Montgomery to South Carolina be the fact that Florida said, hey, Antoine's our first pick? I don't know. We don't have answers on that yet. But I will say this. If you go take a look at 2025 quarterbacks, they're all filled up. And what I mean by that is 1 through 10 all have a school currently. Obviously, they can be flipped. But we saw with quarterbacks, once those guys are in, we over the years, except like a Dylan Raiola situation, which that's just kind of his personality. If you go look, he went to 4 high schools in 3 years. He flipped 3 schools in that period of time. That's a little bit different in my opinion. But most of these guys, these quarterbacks, stick for the most part. You'll find 1 or 2. Don't get it twisted. I think Julian Lewis, currently committed to USC, is on flip watch, but he's been committed to USC since he was in 8th grade. Not quite the same kind of a commitment for guys committing now. So that's something to keep an eye on of what is Billy going to be able to do with literally just not that too many options left when it comes to quarterback, which could be a good thing too for Florida with Antoine Hill, given the fact that, hey, look, everyone already has their guy. Let's make this thing work. We got a great connection here. Let's figure it out. Let's close it strong.
Well, the good part about all of that is you got a 5-star number 1 quarterback that's waiting after Graham Mertz. So even if you can't get, say,
Sure.
a elite quarterback this cycle, does it really hurt that much? As long as, like, I mean, you can even use the transfer portal if you really
Sure.
had to, but I mean, Yeah, as far as it goes with Ryan Montgomery and Antoine Hill, when I personally look at both of them, I actually like Antoine Hill a little bit more than Ryan Montgomery. But Ryan Montgomery, I mean, he's 71% completion rating, I think, last year in high school. Of course, he goes to his senior year as well. I mean, I think both people have really good traits to them. I think Hill's more of a dual threat kind of guy that would probably fit more in your RPO kind of offense that Billy Napier's likes to run here. But I mean, as long as you can come away with, I guess, one of these quarterbacks or a quarterback that is I guess, a highly prolific one that people are after, fans are going to be excited, and that's probably going to help you recruit tight ends, receivers, and all that other kind of stuff. But if not, I mean, you can, like I said, you could always turn to the transfer portal. I mean, we've seen Miami do it. I mean, Judd Anderson wasn't going to starting boards to get a starting job, so they went out and got Cam Ward, and they paid him a lot of money because he was going to go to the NFL. I mean, there's always different options, especially this day and age with the
For
portal.
sure.
But you want to recruit in high school because that's where you can get guys to stay at least 2 to 3 years, and then wind up in the NFL, and hopefully they don't transfer. But whatever. I'm just excited that we have DJ Lagway on the roster. So if something was to happen just this cycle, I'd be okay with it. But you got to do something next cycle or in the
Agreed.
portal.
I don't think it's the end of the road because of what DJ Lagway is. You expect him to be there for a little bit. So a 2025 quarterback, they're hopefully, if all things go well, they won't see the field until their junior year anyways. So that plays a factor, and I completely agree. Let's talk about it, man. So we got spring ball tomorrow. We're gonna talk about numbers. We're gonna talk about weight gains, boys. I see you guys in the comments losing your nipples. We're gonna talk all those things, so don't worry. Okay, I promise you. Dave is ready to fire off on them. But we've got spring ball starting tomorrow, which I am ecstatic about. I'm probably gonna do a show tomorrow. We get back tomorrow. Probably gonna have a show tomorrow. Just kind of fired up about that, right? Like talking about just day one and what we can get. I'll try to reach out to Zach Goodall, see if he gets anything. Zach's been on SEC Network, so he may have moved on from High Top Sports. We may have made it good enough for him now. I don't know. We'll have to figure these things out. But let's talk about it. So to hear your takes from what you're looking for and what you're hoping for. First thing is who will emerge at wide receiver? That's your number one question. What you're looking to see for the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, when you go down and you look at just the wide receiver, it's not even really the depth part; it's more the experience part. I mean, you've got a lot of talent. You got Aiden Mazzell,
Sure.
You got Andy G, you got Dre Hall. I mean, there's a lot of speed. There's a lot of speed in that wide receiver room, and of course, you got Khalil Jackson, who's probably going to be one of the starters there, and Eugene Wilson. Obviously, it's probably going to be the best receiver on your team. Would be Eugene Wilson, and then you got Marcus Burke, who's been there seemingly forever, and he's made plays, he's shown flashes, but he hasn't really been consistent. Is it his time to start showing flashes now and getting out there on the field? I've seen plenty of plays where Marcus Burke's been wide open and he doesn't even get the ball. So, I mean, there's times where I see where Marcus Burke could get more receptions. And I think the last time I remember being really, really ticked off was Marcus Burke was in the Georgia game. It was a couple of years ago when Anthony Richardson was overthrowing everybody wide open down the seam for a touchdown, and Anthony Richardson just heaves it over his head. So I know he's got the skill. I know he's got the talent there. I'd like to see him make the next step. And then, of course, you got Shamir Dickey or however you say his last name. DK? Shamir DK. He's over from Wisconsin. He's a senior. He'll be in his first year here at Florida. I mean, I guess he's got some kind of familiarity with Graham Mertz. So what does he bring to the table? There's just a lot of unproven names, I guess, in the wide receiver room. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to be good. It's just we as fans have not seen anything, but we don't know what the coaches see. But it will be interesting to see just based on the fact of all the skill level talent we got in that wide receiver room and who wins the starting job, out of spring and going into fall.
It's going to be big on who steps up, right? With the losing Ricky Pearsall, I don't think Shamir DK is going to fill that void. I've said he's the replacement, but he's not going to. I mean, that Ricky is balling in the NFL draft, and I could just the grind that he put into that. I mean, I could be wrong. And I would love to be wrong. I think Eugene's going to take a massive step, which excites me. They've got Khalil Jackson, which I'm not mad about. Khalil, I mean, played lights out last year. Lights out in the sense of what was expected of him, okay? I would like him to take a step forward. But again, with Andy Jean, Tara Hawkins, I hope I said his name correctly, Aiden Mizell, there is a lot of young talent that could really be utilized like Eugene was last year. So I love that. It'll be exciting to see who is able to take that step and put some weight on too. That was something that I didn't take a look at for those guys. Maybe you did, and we can talk about that when we go into the weights, because that was something that Andy was a little tiny last year from when we looked at it, but he was dealing with an injury. Again, those guys we don't get thick, but hey, speaking of thick, Trayon was 215, 5'11", 215. A boy thick, that boy thick. That's a good kind of thick too, because we saw photos of him. A boy thick. Does Mertz take the next step? I love this. This is something that we were talking about too. Zach already wrote an article just the other day or 2 days ago, which is something that I've been preaching on the show, but it doesn't mean anything when I say it. But now everyone's kind of like, again, what I've been beating this drum is you got a guy coming back for a second year, something Florida hasn't had since Kyle Trask. We saw what Kyle Trask did in his second year back. We saw the improvement that Mertz made from Wisconsin at Florida, having his career season last year with Florida, even with the injury. Could we see another career year? And if so, that's massive. If he has another career year, meaning he beats last year's performance.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Graham Mertz, especially last year, they didn't really release the reins to him to throw the football until it got to the South Carolina game. You really saw what Graham Mertz could do as a quarterback at South Carolina. Now, I know it wasn't the best defense he played, but it still was a defense that he played. So you saw where he could actually get the football to his receivers, see the open guys. Of course, there's some things he's got to improve in his game, especially if he is pressured and eluding some sacks and just throwing it out of bounds. But I mean, you talk about Kyle Trask. I mean, in 2019, he had a 67% completion rating and he threw for just under 3,000 yards. But then in 2020, he increased that completion rating to 69% and threw for over 4,000 yards, setting the college, the Florida college passing record. So I'm not saying Graham Mertz is going to do all of that Kyle Trask did. That would be great if he did.
It's not Dan Mullen calling the plays, but yeah.
Right. And then you listen to Billy Napier, and he talked about when he was in the transfer portal looking at the quarterback, he went to Wisconsin's coaches, and they said, yeah, we didn't really utilize Graham Mertz the right way. So, I mean, he does research. He brought Graham Mertz in, and he was pretty productive as a quarterback. Now, you get the defense playing a little bit better. You get some pressure off of him. Maybe some offensive line plays a little bit better this year. You never know where Graham Mertz can take you. Year two as a Florida Gator.
Yeah, I'm beyond ecstatic for this. And again, going up against look at the teams we're playing. Right, this is something that I mentioned where the schedule is tough, but you're going up against Miami, new quarterback. FSU, new quarterback. UCF, new quarterback. LSU, new quarterback. Ole Miss, Georgia, the same quarterbacks. Kentucky has a new quarterback. And look, although that team is good, they've been established. That's a big factor. And look, the one difference is a lot of these guys got transfer quarterbacks, so they're not getting inexperienced. A new guy coming in, kind of like what Georgia with Carson Beck had, which that didn't slow them down any. They're getting much experienced guys, so that plays a factor too. And I know that. But look, it's just a learning curve. And the Florida, thankfully, for the first time since Trask, is not having to go through that, which I'm excited to see. Next up, they made some position changes. They've got Moten going from safety to linebacker. They've got Jamarquise Weston going from something to edge. He's been in 19 different positions. They've got Gavin Hill going from defensive lineman to tight end. They've got, what am I missing? They've got a couple.
You got David George going to guard.
I love that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. So what are your thoughts? You're hoping to see some success with those. Look, I think the Damian George one, in my opinion, is the only true factoring one. The other ones I feel like are going to just be depth adds, and maybe hopefully they can get a lottery ticket out of them. Damian George, I am beyond pumped for.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it too. I mean, RJ Moten moving there to, I guess it was edge linebacker somewhere over there. I mean, yeah, he's played safety at Michigan, and you see him back there last year, and there was times where he kind of looked lost a little bit. And now you can either blame that on him or the coaching staff or Austin Armstrong. We don't know. It just wasn't working out of that position anyway. You bring in Asa Turner, you bring in Triquise Bridges from Oregon, you bring in some more qualified transfer portal guys to play that position. You move him around. So yeah, I could see where you could say, well, maybe it's a little bit of a death piece, but never know. Moten may be good at that. And then you obviously, Damian George to guard is huge because offensive tackle wasn't working for him for sure.
Not at all.
Can you look at some of the plays that Damian George that you had against some of these guys, especially the Florida State game where he just got pushed into his own quarterback. So you're thinking to yourself, well, even if you're playing guard, are you going to get pushed into your quarterback there? There's a lot of questions there, but also there was big time issues in the strength and conditioning department as well that we all know of. Seems that Florida has fixed that. So maybe moving him to guard, extra strength and conditioning, something getting better there. Maybe he does play better in that position.
So there was a few. Someone in the comment section, they didn't remember him playing guard. There was an injury that it was maybe like 2 or 4 plays. It wasn't many plays, but he played guard for a little bit and he looked at his best. I remember going over the film with Stephen Harris. That's why I remember him playing guard and he looked at his best. And look, tackle is a much different position. It's not just like, oh, plug and chug. Even Austin Barber, we talked about it with him on the show. It's a massive change. It's something that you really have to work on. So if you look at Damian George, you look at his PFF stats, what he was at Bama. He's not horrible. I just think he was misplaced last year, and I think they moved him for a reason. And there's a reason why they didn't let him go, but they let Mizuka. I think they let Mizuka go, in my opinion. I think because he would have been behind Damian George, and Mizuka wouldn't have started over Najee. So that's gonna be huge. I saw that Muddy put that Moten, because when I saw it happen originally, he's like 5'11", 210, and I was like, that's kind of tiny for a linebacker, but he's up to 230. So he puts on maybe 10 more pounds. Like you said, I think he could go from a depth piece to a healthy quality, not start, but maybe a healthy second piece, because again, he has that safety mindset. He has that bird's eye view of like, everything's behind me. The mindset's there. It's just now, do you have the weight to knock somebody down? And it looks like that we're putting it on in the right places. So that's good. I have my takeaways, which were a little bit different. First being, does the O-line take a step? That's going to be, I mean, that's obviously an easy one. And I think that happens. I think everything that you mentioned, wide receiver play, quarterback play, all takes an increase. And we're all excited to see this with the changes with the O-line coaches, with the changes with the rotation of the offensive line, with the portal additions. It's huge. I mean, this is going to be the make or break it. We know that. And I think that's going to be a big thing that I hope the beat writers really take a look at it and we're able to get some great analysis from, again, we're itching here, right? We just want to know as much as we possibly can. We'll know a lot at that spring game, which we will be at. That's going to be, because we saw it last year. We saw the offensive line sucked last year at the spring game. Part of it was due to injuries, so we were hoping that it was injury based more so than production, but we learned pretty quickly it was a little bit of everything. The D-line looked a lot better too than what it did during the season, but we'll see. Again, I think that's going to be a big thing that I've circled that I'm looking for during that spring game is the O-line. And then, good.
Oh, I was going to say, last year when I watched the spring game and watching Gray Mertz drop back pass, he's getting pressured like every play. And I said, well, you can have two takeaways. Our offensive line is really bad or our defense is really good. Turned out it wound up being our offensive line was really bad. I mean, last year you look at it, Gray Mertz sacked 28 times, dropped back pressured 120 times. If you can just cut the sack numbers like in half. Or even at 20, and then drop the drop back pressures, cut that in half. I mean, like, that's a completely different offensive line. And you've seen it. I mean, like, if you go back to, Jim McElwain's last year, right? Our offensive line was horrible. Dan Mullen comes in there, pretty much almost the same guys. 2018, the offensive line played phenomenal. I mean, like, I think there's a disconnect maybe on that offensive line. Maybe there's the communication levels, or maybe people are playing out of position, communication levels, whatever. But like now they have another year. They've played together. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. And again, it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. It's going to be the key to be having success in the SEC, especially with that schedule. Next up is going to be the linebacker room. Look, I think Shamar James, obviously, we're excited about him, but coming off injury, it's going to be something to question. It's a knee injury, something that it's not a new injury, it's an old injury. So there's going to be some concern there, and it's like, I'm not trying to be negative, but he's going to have to take a big step forward. We're losing Scooby Williams, who was a big factor. I mean, he played a lot of time, whether we liked him or not, he still played a lot of time. So it's going to be a very new room. You've got Miles Graham and Aaron Childs, who I am beyond excited about, but there's a lot of youth there. And I think that's also the reason for R.J. Moten as well, to bring a lot of experience, at least just on the field, to that room. And then you got Pup Howard, who played at South Carolina a bit last year. He's looking to probably get some starts. So that room, to me, I'm ecstatic about, but it's a very big boom or bust kind of room, in my opinion, just given the youth of the room and with Shamar and his injuries. It's not like it's a Ventrell, right, where it's like, okay, we've got a legitimate leader in here, right, that has a ton of experience. That's just he needs to make a step to go to the NFL. Like Shamar, there's some question marks there still that we don't have answers to.
Yeah, you forgot about my guy Derek Wingo, man.
Oh shit, my bad. I keep forgetting about Wingo. Yeah, I think Wingo. Yeah, and look, everyone's hyped up on Wingo, so maybe, and that's another big factor too that I keep sleeping on. Maybe I might have a block with Wingo there because he didn't do much for me last year, so I wasn't sold on him. But he was dealing with an injury last year too, so that's something to kind of.
I think that clip of him getting knocked back by that LSU
I just try to forget about him entirely. Yeah. It stings, bro. It stings. Hey, boys, we got 350 people here on this beautiful Wednesday night. I'm freezing my ass off, but be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you are enjoying it. Callie says, yeah, the room scares me the most. It scares me, but like it excites me all at once. And then excited to see how far along Lagway is. And what I mean by this is Arch Manning, obviously, being the like perfect score quarterback last year, wasn't that when we saw him in the spring game, and we've seen him in a couple of those games. We kind of agreed that he wasn't going to be a 5-star guy, but he was a perfect rated quarterback and did not live up to those expectations. Not saying that he won't, but out the gates, which again, if you were the number one recruit, I'd imagine you should hit the field and look somewhat legitimate. With as much excitement and hype that has ramped up behind Lagway, I really hope to see, like, I in a very positive way, like, we should leave the orange and blue game wanting Lagway, knowing Merch has the job, but it's like, man, Lagway's like a game or two. Like, he could really, like, if things were to, like, we would feel comfortable handing the ball off. I think we were excited for Max and these things last year because of just the unknown. We know we're going to get out of Mac or Mertz. We know what to expect from him. Let's see what Lagway is going to be able to do in the spring game, which we all know is also going to be reserved. But I'm telling you, bro, those clips from Maxie Brown slinging the ball to Mazel were going nuts last year. Wait till a clip from Lagway slinging that football down the football field hits one of these wide receivers. It's going to be mayhem in a good way. So I'm really excited to see, again, if the hype is, and I think it will be, but I just want it to be solidified even more.
Yeah, I was kind of ashamed where I didn't get to watch him play that whole Under Armour All-American game because he hurt his ankle.
You got him hurt.
And those games really matter anyway, so I don't blame him for sitting out of that game. He's already won just about every award you could win in high school. And you look at, like, past quarterbacks and you look at some of their max prep stats, and for the most part, if a quarterback has a upper 60 to 70% or plus completion rating, and he's passed for a lot of yards too. First time Willis, I think, has been to like a playoffs or something like that. I can't remember what that statistic was, but I mean, that counts for something, even though it's high school. It was 6A too, by the way, which is a pretty hard division. I mean, you go in, you play that division, you get your team all the way there, you lose to DeSoto, and then you make your way to the University of Florida, and there's all this hype and there's all this lore around you, and like you throw on the clips. I mean, you can just see why he's hyped. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but
like,
you got to see it translate. Now I got to see it translate.
Right. And then Jeff Driscoll was kind of one of those prospects that came into the University of Florida, and he didn't fare so well, but he did not accomplish a lot of the stuff that DJ Lagway did. So that's why I'm a little bit excited for it, just based on the fact that, like, hey, man, this kid's good. Let's see how good he is as a college athlete. And this is just going to be his freshman year.
Hey, bro, he put on some weight, bro. He's like 6'3", 250. I was like, so
yeah, he's listed as 241 on the site.
Okay, I gave him 9 extra pounds. I was like, hey, if quarterback doesn't work out, linebacker's in your future. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, bro, I saw that and I was like, dude, there's no way. I mean, I would love to know. I wish I had before and after. I would love to know, like, what impact the strength and conditioning has had. Because we're gonna go over this. We know some of these guys, but I don't know what DJ was. Unless you guys know this in the chat, fire it in there now. What he was before spring ball would be very interesting to me. I think 240. That's thick because Mertz is like 215.
I think he was like 230 something. I can look up.
Okay.
I'll look up.
I feel like he's like 220, but maybe I'm wrong.
24/7 may have not have updated it through the last year. So
I saw that somebody just said Kearney went over 300 pounds, which is good. Kearney's been grinding away. And who we had, Najee, said he's a dark night for us.
Yeah, it shows Lagway at 225 on 24/7, but you don't know when that was updated either. So,
but hey, he's putting on weight in the right places. I'm hoping. So QB saying 210 on the chat, but we'll see. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying, about 215, 220. So real quick, let's talk about NIL, then we're going to get into some of these other things. This was, I found interesting. Another article was written kind of hyping up the Florida Victorious. To me, it felt like it was a piece to counter that negative piece that was written because of how things were construed through the interview. They got a commercial, they've got billboards, and it was talking about, hey, like Nick Barbera, the CEO, was like, yeah, look, we understand that a top 10 NIL is great, but it's not going to win championships, and we want to win championships. So he was, in a way, saying, like, we're not where we want to be, but we're making steps to get to the right places, which, again, we hear a lot of negative things and things aren't going the right way. This is the first time I've heard Nate, excuse me, I think kind of put the foot down of like, no, we're headed there. But he did also say, look, we're still behind the 8 ball in certain areas, like Ole Miss's NIL. They've got more members than we do, almost double than what we have currently. So losing plays a factor into that. Florida starts winning some more, games. I imagine that would change a little bit. But they were kind of talking about, like, look, we've got to run this like a business, and we've got to get more awareness out there. I think that was the biggest thing too. We've talked on the show before. People are kind of confused or unaware of what's going on. I think a lot of it has to do with the back and forth, and it's like, dude, you gotta just put it out there. And it's great to see Strickland and Billy Napier and even Spurrier on this commercial. You're gonna tap into all of the the Gator fans from far and wide, to seeing the old ball coach, seeing your AD, and the new coach all promoting this, which we've been kind of beating the drum of, like, why haven't these guys been promoting it on a Twitter sphere or more of in a public forum. This is, in my opinion, that first step. So that is promising for me, and things that we've been kind of beating the drum. Is it the timeline and the speed that we would like it at? Probably not, but it at least is. It's May. The train's moving, Dave. Okay, the train's moving.
Yeah, well, the train's been derailed for the past 2 years, but finally they started getting the ball rolling, and of course they have paid attention to it. You see home field apparel, you see some of the restaurants around Florida asking people if they want to donate to the NIL after they close out their tab, whatever. I mean, so at least they are taking the steps in the right direction. Just wished it would have been a lot quicker and a lot sooner. But hey, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I can say what I want to, but finally there's action, and that's all the fans really want. So, I mean, I can't really complain.
Absolutely. I didn't want to kind of beat the drum. We've kind of been not nailing this NIL stuff, but I thought it was, the reason I wanted to at least bring it up was because of the Edgar article. And this is what I've been getting annoyed with lately. And it's just the world we live in. An article like that has this negative spin, right, explodes because people love animosity. They love turmoil, and it gets the people going. And it's what really fires, in my opinion, the negative Gator Twitter, because everybody loves when things aren't going. It's like a car crash when if we just love it. So we're gonna retreat a car crash versus something going well. It's just human nature. I can't put a finger on it. And this to me was like, look, this was literally countering everything that article said, and I'm not hearing about it the same way. And so I at least wanted to bring it up and talk about it a little bit. So.
Yeah, well, people like Edgar and Matt Baker get paid on writing negative articles to get reactions, so they get clicks and people get in an uproar. So I don't really pay attention to most of what they write because I just think it's all malarkey and bull crap. But yeah, I mean, like, guys, if you're ever out there on the internet and you see an Edgar article or Matt Baker article, do not reply to it. Don't even say a word. Just block them. Just block them. You don't even have to see anything. Just block them. They want you guys to quote tweet them and reply and react and click so they can make money. Don't do it.
My wife just flashed me. I apologize. She just walked up to the window here and flashed me. So that was where they throw me off. She got me. She got the tater. So we got me all in a doozy here. Yeah, look, I was actually listening to a Portnoy article, and it's like, dude, it's almost like cops. This is what he was saying. When at the end of the month, they've got to get their tickets. They got to hit their quota. And so these writers have to hit their quota. So they're like, how can we clip this up? What can we say? And it's almost like they just kind of fire off like any little tidbit they can get to see, to get the clicks and views. So I don't know. It is what it is. I don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but it was interesting, and I wanted to shine some light. And look, I think it's our job, like what we do when we talk about it, to try to inform people and give our thoughts and opinions about it. It's like, look, we can't, if it's not viral, it doesn't mean it's not important. And I feel like this was an important one. So you got to keep her, buddy. I do got to keep her, bro. She's wild because that's amazing. But I look up and I was like, what does she need? Like, she knows what I'm doing here. Bam. Straight boobs.
She needs some milk.
She needs some milk. I love it. All right, let's dive into this. So we're gonna talk about this. Gonna be a little fire round. We're gonna kind of go over like the quick topics of going around college football, and we're gonna go over the numbers and the weight last, because I think that's a fun one. Although, and Dave and I were getting into this about the numbers thing of like, who cares? We just want to win. I agree. But I'm old-fashioned. I still think it's fun to know what your favorite player is going to wear. The one tradition is still important to me, although I know some people aren't as excited about it or just want to, whatever. I think it's important. To me, it's a big factor of what Florida football has been, of who's going to wear that number and what it represents. And there is some importance to it. And just because we're pissed off as fans right now doesn't mean we should get away from it. So we'll talk about it, who got those two numbers and what DJ got. And then weights, because everyone's freaking out about the weights. So first up, we have to talk about it. Like, everyone's kind of already beat the drum on this too. But obviously, we still have to talk about it. Arch Manning just choosing to opt out of the EA Sports game because from what I read was to focus on football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. What do you keep looking over the side over there, Sheldon?
I'm hoping for another show, bro. I'm hoping I might get double dip. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, though.
This was nuts to me. Like, I feel like, and I think it's just generations, man. Like, it's in a sense that, like, first of all, focus on the game. Like, you're not playing. You're not like, what are you doing? You just basically sign a piece of paper and get paid $600 for it. I think because I did read somewhere where certain players were getting paid more based on their popularity. And I think he probably wasn't happy with the fund that he was receiving. I could be wrong, but why else wouldn't you want to be part of something, be part of history? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know, man. He comes from the Manning family. He's probably already got a shit ton of money.
It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's bigger than that. It's about being part of like you. When you do that, you're telling me that you think you're better than everybody else. That's how I feel about it. You're like, I'm too good to be in it. Like, Bill Belichick makes sense. The guy's a prick. Like, that's who you are. You're Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the reason too. I mean, like, I'm just trying to like factor in everything that could have been a reason why. I mean, like, I don't see the reason either. I mean, like, hell, if you were gonna put me into a video game and said, hey, yeah, just don't make it to where people can make me naked and I'm good.
I don't think anybody was worried about that before you said that, Dave. I don't think being naked was ever a thought.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I'm sure you look good naked though. You're Swolderquist. So I feel like if there was,
they need to put me in that game to report all the players.
Dave, we've seen your wife. You look good naked. All right, I think you'd be okay. If you're like the one caveat, like if they for some reason the game glitched, which is the fact that we're here now is really weird. But if the game glitched and you were naked, I think you'd bode better than a lot of us for sure. I'd vouch for you. Like no homo, but I'd vouch for you.
You're gonna have everybody looking up my wife now, man.
I love it. This is the best day of the week. You guys never know where this is gonna come. You know what I'm saying? Like, pause. This is bad. How do we do this? This is why Arch opted out of the game. Never mind. We figured it out. This is why he didn't want to be part of the game. He didn't want to be talked about in this manner. Oh gosh.
All right. Well,
that's what I'm saying. Great visit, dude. Do you know how many kids grew up dreaming of being in a game? It doesn't make any sense to me. And you're getting paid. You're getting like I don't. It doesn't make any sense. It just I can't wrap my brain around. I can't fathom it. I refuse to. You know what I mean?
But yeah, didn't he refused something else too a while back? Didn't he? There was something else that I think he was supposed to get from his NIL or no. He didn't play in any camps. That's why, because he knew he was going to be the number one quarterback.
Like it just to me, it's they're like, I like the kid. I got nothing against him. I don't know him to hate the kid, but it's like the moves you're making are they're from the outside looking in, they're egotistical moves. And I guess it's because it's like, hey, I'm Manny and I have more to lose. And like, what the hell do I know? Like, you're in an upper echelon that I will never be a part of. So maybe that's what it is. Like, you function differently. I don't know. It's just like that group of people. Who knows? I don't know. Weird stuff. Look, this was a wild one here. And this is something that, look, I'm not shocked. I'm shocked that he was willing to go on record and say this. And Nick Saban, this is what I kept preaching 2 years ago, that Nick Saban was going to retire. And I said he was going to retire because of the NIL. And this also should kind of calm people down a little bit of like, look, if Saban, the GOAT, is dealing with these issues, imagine what everybody else is dealing with on a much more extreme scale. Like, this guy is literally what you want in a college football coach, and he is struggling, grasping his head around the NIL situation, which also another thing is too, with the Spurrier comments, people kind of connected the two of like, look, Spurrier's comments are respected because he is the all ball coach, but it's like, look, he's also a little disconnected as well. And it's like, yes, you have a thought on it, but how much are you truly understanding the situation? So here's what Nick said. He said, I want to be clear that wasn't the reason. He's kind of quoting like, this isn't why he retired. But he goes, but some of those events certainly contributed. Saban said of his decision to retire, I was really disappointed in the way that the players acted after the game. You got to win with class. You got to lose with class. And then it goes on to kind of talk about like these guys after the game were frustrated and were asking, okay, so hey, how much are you going to pay us? Like what's next? And coach is like, hey, we got 80% of the team coming back. We're really fired up. Like we should do things really well. And I even said that. I was like, look, this team's gonna be nasty next year because they're really young. But nobody was focused on that. Everybody was focused on us. What are you gonna do for me? How are we gonna handle my business? How are you going to pay me? And I could see Nick going, I can't do this. And even states, and I don't want this to sound like a bitch fest for me either. I think it's just, again, it's a change in generation. It's a change in the game. And I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that you're going to like it. I'm not saying you're going to love it. But it's the matter of the fact. And it was kind of what Nick was saying. I was like, look, it's changing. That just is what it is. And I don't want to, I'm not there anymore. I'm not willing to alter how I do things with the way this is headed. And again, I think a lot of us will probably agree that it's like not the most favorite place that it's headed. But it was interesting to hear him say that. And again, like that should kind of tell us, like, this is kind of, I kind of say pump the brakes too, is like, it's a gauntlet out there. And I don't know how, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the old ways of college football, the BCS. I mean, there was no NIL. You pay players under the table, which that happened everywhere. There was bagmen all over the place. So kids were getting paid. The problem is now you're adding in the fact that they could transfer immediately the next year. Back then, you couldn't. You would have to wait a year and be the same conference. You'd have to go to a different conference. And so, like, your kids were more locked in. So they were more about playing football, trying to make it to the NFL. Now it's a different story. I've seen and I've heard of kids, especially, and I'm not going to put names out there or anything, but there's been kids that have demanded more NIL money that really haven't even done anything on the field. So it's not just like one player that you're having to deal with. It's multiple ones. And anytime that they do something good or anytime that they have a good season, they're already going to be screaming for money. And then at the same time, it's like, if your kids transfer to a rival, yeah, like you're just like, dude, I'm pretty much screwed over here. And I get why Saban did it, because I think he's 78 now. He's like in his 70s. He's pretty old.
75. Yeah. So yeah, he's old. Yeah.
I mean, he already dealt with stress, seeing him yell at Alabama and all that, but now he's having to deal with stress of the NIL and everything. And I think it's really important that like teams are starting to hire general managers and all this other kind of stuff. I think it's really important that you hire people now to keep up with these kids. I know they got agents and all that, but like, there's going to be kids screaming for this, that, and the other. And you got to have guys set in place to where like they can say, hey, look, calm down, whatever they have to say to them, and keep their head on straight to where, they play the next game, play the next year. And like, I think Kirby Smart's done a really good job of that. Even though people leave his program, he does a really good job of recruiting elite so he can replace the people that left his program. And then Saban was doing the same thing as well, but it's just really hard for teams like Florida, teams like, that aren't on the trajectory that Georgia and Alabama and all the rest of those teams.
It's hard to get up there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at the G5 teams, you look at some of the lower rated schools like Bowling Green and all that. They're losing their good players from the transfer portal, so these kids can play in the SEC.
Yeah, it's it's something we've been kind of beating the drum, and I think for Nick to kind of say that too, in the sense like I came into the locker room, excited for what is to come, and the players were just more concerned with how are they going to be compensated. That's what the article said, and it's like that, you got to think like you've coached this game for how many years now, and it's you understand kind of the ins and outs in the back behind under the bag kind of stuff, but now it's because it's so open. It's like everybody all the way down to the kicker. What are we talking, coach? It's like, did you not just see what we just did? Like it's bigger than that. Like this is what we're trying to accomplish, and we were a stop away from getting that. That your head should be worried about, how do I get back on the field? Like you should be like chomping at the bits to get back out there and say, we're not going to get to this point again. We're going to be going on to the next point. And it's not that anymore. And that's upsetting. I mean, that's not me trying to be this old timer. I'm not even an old timer, but it's not even me trying to hate. I love the fact these kids are being able to compensate. I think there's so many great things involved with it, but we've got to find a sweet spot. We've got to find a sweet spot, or we're going to lose the whole passion and what makes college football just different.
Yep. Yeah, the love of the game is gone, like, for the most part. I mean, you'll have kids that still want to play football to make it to the NFL, and they love the game. I'm not going to say that every kid that signs up for NIL, but I mean, come on, most of them are. And like most of them, all they care about is the NIL and the money. But I mean, let's be honest here. So you're losing some of the love of the game from a aspect from the kid, and how's that like really teaching them well as they get older? Like you're giving them money at this early of an age, and so much money that's all they care about. That's
it's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be a couple of years to see the repercussions, I guess you can say, or the consequences, or the outcome of this. But look, could be great. Who knows? We'll see. Let's dive into the next thing. I'm not gonna do the Lane Kiffin thing. I don't really care about that. So let's talk about the number changes and the weight changes and all this hooping and hollering that is going on. So look, like I said, I love it. I think it's great. It excites me. Montrell Johnson's going from number 2 because Mr. DJ Lagway is getting number 2. And Montrell will be repping the number 1 jersey. Obviously, it was Ricky's last year. There was that video that was surfaced around showing Trey wearing number 1. And again, people are like, who cares? And you're right. Like, yes, that is an easy answer. But it speaks volumes. The coach gives you that number. It speaks volumes to what he says about you. It speaks volumes to the team. So it has purpose to it. I don't mind Montrell getting it. I think he's the leader on that offense. Obviously, Mertz isn't going to be number 1. It's going to be one of those guys. And I think that Trey, I like Trey being 3 still. I think he had a lot of great things last year, but the number 1, I think, takes a little bit more than just being. It's more than just a flashy player. You got to carry yourself a little bit differently. I think Montrell fits that perfectly. It was almost kind of defaulted to him, I think, just given the fact of the oldest guy in the room and has been there now. It's going on to his 3rd year, which is really exciting. This guy's a true blood Gator, in my opinion, going into his 3rd year and really riding with this team. So I love it. And then Justice Boone being number 1. That one's a huge one. That one could have gone a couple places, in my opinion.
Justice Boone, I mean, you look back at what he did in 2022. He had to sit out 2023 because of injury. Hell, everybody remembers that hit he had on Will Levis. I mean, that was just a complete knockout blow.
Bringing the boom, baby.
You would like to see more from him, obviously, but I mean, you can't really see more from him when he's hurt. But I mean, I think he's going to be a big contributor this year. Like, I mean, you go back to some of the big hits that you've seen in the past, you haven't really seen them on this Florida Gator team. He's one of the guys that delivers one of those big hits, and that's something we've been missing. As I've always quoted last year, #hit somebody. Justice Boone is one of those guys that could come in and make an impact. And sometimes some people forget about him. Like, I'll go into these spaces and they'll talk about like some of the defensive linemen, some of the edge guys. Justice Boone doesn't really get talked about because he didn't really play last year. And I'm just saying, hey, don't forget about this guy, man. Like, he's coming back too. And then a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that's right, Justice Boone. So yeah.
And Trayon Webb's getting number 5 going from 20. Obviously, Kamari Wilson had that number, so I'd like that as well. Also, too, shout out to Connor Clark. Connor Clark tweeted this out and then proceeded to tweet out the entire list. I was like, this man's retired, and he's still like, he loves it. You could just tell, like, he bleeds it. I told
him, he's like, you're never gonna retire from this, man.
I love him. He's great, dude. I wish he wouldn't. I wish he didn't. But I mean, teach his own, so I get it. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Desmond Watson's 464 pounds, Dave.
Oh my God! You want to go ahead, or
I'm nervous to hear what you have to say. Look, I love the guy. I love this kid to death. I got the chance to interview him. I saw some people saying muscle. That's a lot of weight to move around. I don't understand it. He was 430, and I remember when he was 430, but I was trying to remember when he was on the show. Didn't he get down to 370 or 380?
Yeah, he's 380 at one time.
So that's crazy. Like, he was 380 on our show a year ago, and he hit the 474. Like, that's just that's a function. That's not a functioning weight, in my opinion. I could be wrong. And the reason, again, we're like, who cares what some kids weight? Like, the thing is like, is it a discipline thing on the coaching staff, or is it just a self-discipline where it's like they can't do anything, and it's like, okay, at what point do you cut ties? They're like, look, Des, like, you're not like, wait, I don't, we can't be with you at every waking moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I saw it earlier today, and like, I don't even know what went through my mind when I saw that today. But like, there comes a point to where, do you care about football and do you care about playing the game? Obviously, you can tell from going to 380 to 420, and then going from 420 to 460 in the offseason, goes to show me that you just don't care. There's no mentality there. There's no, headstrong. There's nothing there from either you. I mean, like, you look at, anybody can help their weight. Anybody can drop weight if they really put their mind to it and they really want to be successful, and they really just want to, I guess, play, in his case, play football, right? A lot of people do it for their health and all that other kind of stuff too. So there's really no excuse for it unless you're just okay with being there. And it seems to me that Desmond Watson's just okay with being there. So what do? Do you just cut ties? Is he having trouble? Is there an issue there? And it kind of falls on both. It falls on the staff for not keeping up with that and then having his weight go up to 460. And it falls on him as himself. He's his own guy. He's his own guy out there in the offseason. He knows he has to play the game of football. He knows where the staff wants him to be. And he consistently just ignores it and does what he wants to do. So your mentality obviously isn't there. To me, if I was a head coach, I would have already cut ties a long time ago. And I would have said, this is unacceptable. You're not taking the game of football seriously, and you need to be off the roster. And I love Desmond Watson to death. He's got a great personality. He's a great kid. I love him. But like that's just unacceptable to me. Like it's completely unacceptable.
Look, I think it's harsh, and this is where I get a little uncomfortable because I'm not here to like criticize a kid. Like at the end of the day, they're kids, and it's like it gets a little personal here. I think I like your criticism of Billy because it is a business, especially more nowadays with the NIL. I know some of you are like, F that, it's a business, and it is. Like you're now an employee. Like, anyway you want to look at it, you are on payroll, and you're taken away from somebody else that could have that position. And it's like if you show up to camp and you've gone now through 2 weeks of camp and you're almost half a ton, right? I don't see him being functioning at 474. And it's like, if I'm Billy, it's like, look, dude, I want to help you, but it's also you got to question Billy's his ability to kind of drop the hammer, right? Of like, you're just if you're gonna what are you telling to the team if you're allowing this guy to hopefully maybe it was a typo. Probably not, but I don't know. It sucks. I don't even want to get this much into it with about a kid's weight, but it's something we've talked about for the last 3 years. We've monitored, and you can see it on the football field because, yes, he's big, but it doesn't do any favors because he can't move the weight. He can't shuffle it. It's not using to his advantage. It's just a big thing to move, and it's like, we'll just go around it. You know what I mean?
I mean, to be a good football player, you have to have motivation, man. There is no motivation there when I'm seeing your weight skyrocket every single year. It just doesn't show me anything that you want to play the game of football at all. It doesn't.
Yeah, Harris says he's always been huge. That's hard to change. Show me a small Des pick. I think, and you're not wrong. I mean, again, when he was 429, we kind of loved it, right? We were like, that's cool. Like he had some mobility to him. But now we've watched this in the fluctuation where he was down to 380. When I met him, I mean, he looked big, but not like 430 big because he was 380 when I met him. And so
I hear people saying he might be diabetic, but they got things you can take for that.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to try to get into this health. And again, there's all these things, but at the end of the day, like there's all these things have factors. So, look, positive news, I would say Trent Webb 215. I love seeing that. I think DJ being a little bit thicker. I didn't take a look at too many of the other ones. Do you have it pulled up by any chance, Dave? We can kind of rip through them really quick. Anything else that stood out to you on the weight? Again, I remember this last year being a big thing of like certain positions and certain guys. And the reason why, again, it seems kind of dumb, like why are we talking about weight? But I think we're trying to find any kind of tea leaves we can with the strength and conditioning. That's how I'm looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like if you're looking at gradual weight gain, like as long as it's not like too much in Dez's, position and where he's at, like I say like Montrell Johnson gains 10 more pounds. Okay, cool. Justice Boone, probably all muscle. You're not going to gain 40 pounds of muscle in the offseason. Nobody ever does that. So I said it was all muscle on Twitter just as a joke. It's not all muscle. Obviously, he gained some bad weight there in the offseason as well. But I mean, like, I don't really. I think I saw where Aiden Mazzell gained some weight too. I know he was at like 157 last year, so I think he put on like maybe 20. I can't remember.
He's at 182.
Yeah, 182. So that's a pretty good healthy weight for a wide receiver to play in football. I know he was injured too, so that probably had a lot to do with some of the weight loss there. But and the strength and conditioning being like Pilates and stuff with Mark Hockey. But now he's put on some weight. And now he's putting on some muscle. So I think everything that I've seen, especially like just I don't really look at weights, but like when I saw Lagway's weight, I was just like, man, coming as a freshman, 240 as the quarterback, man, that's crazy. Yeah, I just overall I'm happy with whatever, except for maybe a few people, but that's it.
Yeah, look, I mean, we'll still get to see too. Obviously, tomorrow we'll have that practice. Hopefully, we'll get to see a little bit of the gains. Again, like it seems like a crazy, but that's something us Florida fans were definitely keeping an eye on it, keeping tabs on, given the circumstances we were dealing with last year. So, boys and girls, over 350 strong almost for an hour. I love all of you guys. I'm freezing my ass off. Be sure to smash the like button for those reasons alone. Let me dive into. We did the ad libs a little late, but I do have them pulled up here for us. I think there's only like 2 responses, but Dave tweeted out saying this week's high top college football libs, we missed last week, so we'll make it up. Blank from the big 3, we will have a blank season because of blank. So Gators Zig says Gators from the big 3 will have a 9-win season because of the defense. Yeah, I said it. So assuming the big, go ahead.
I said okay.
And then Shid and Vard said, is Wednesday, my dudes. And then he also said FSPoo and Cryami from the big 3 will have a shit season because of being leaky drip cheeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get those out a little bit earlier so a lot of people can reply to them. I got that one out kind of late, and tweets of the week now will be on Friday, but it will be on the site. So if you have a tweet or a favorite tweet that you think's funny, you can send me a DM or just even tag me in it, and I'll try to add that if it's pretty much any person that tags me in a tweet. I usually add it anyway. So if you got a tweet of the week, man, shoot me a DM, tag me or something. Look out for it every Friday from now on.
Love it. Also, too, boys, how about Gators basketball? 105-87 against Bama last night. An absolute massive W, too. Again, because I felt like we choked it away at Bama. Obviously, getting to play them at home and dominate them the way that we were at Bama, but kind of gave it away, feels really good. This team, I've been saying it. I've been knocking down this door. What I love seeing is the issues we had early on. This is things that Billy needs to work on. Free throw shooting, closing out games. The shooting, just overall shooting, has improved. And I think that shows you a lot on the coaching. Because all these guys have the talent. All the players have the ability to get it done. But if they start losing just faith in themselves and trusting one another, it's very noticeable, and that falls back on the coach. So shout out to Todd Golden and the boys for getting it done. A massive W there. It looked like there might be like a 6 seed head into the tournament. Again, SEC play. They go win that bitch out. Could play a factor where they can maybe bump up to a 5 seed. And look, that plays a factor going into later rounds, getting to play easier seeds. But honestly, dude, March Madness is mayhem. And I love the fact that, again, the dance is all on neutral sites. So you see the big swings. Home field advantage in basketball is absolutely huge. It's huge in football, but it is absolutely huge in basketball. Playing on a neutral site against these teams, it's going to be interesting to see. I like the fact that we played a lot of these teams. Even the South Carolina game, we were playing very well. Very well, and we kind of choked it away. Again, that was on their home court. Imagine if we're in a neutral court, that momentum swing doesn't happen the same way. So I think this team is in a really good place to do something really special. I've been saying it. They've got the kind of the key components. Closing strong now, shooting free throws. They've got a guy in Walter effing Clayton that you can just throw the rock up and it's going to go in. Zion Pullen had a big game with 19 points, and you got your big whiteys in the middle rebound the ball, which I love that. So that fires me up when those boys are out there getting them elbow greases working. So I love it. Exciting whites. I saw the meme of the wines had me cheesing, bro. I love it. So. Team's doing really well. Team's doing well.
Yeah, man, I saw that and just
the way I look at it, they got what they deserved. It should have been more.
I love it. I love the button. I don't have any buttons on this new one, man. I love it. That was good stuff. Also, too, to the people freaking out about baseball, just hear me out for a damn second. Like, clearly you've never watched baseball. Okay, first of all. Second of all, like these things, like our pitching wins baseball games. Trust me, I know this. But it's also early in the season, and you're going to throw your young guys out there. You've got to get them reps. You've got to get figured out. Like, in a way, like, you don't ever want to lose games, but it's nowhere near losing like it comes with basketball and football. So all the guys on Twitter and people freaking out, give it time. Sully took his team to a championship last year. Like, we're questioning this guy. I'm like, what? When I'm seeing this, I'm like literally this fan base is nuts. I'm like, guys, baseball is a completely different animal. Let it run its course. Pitchers take a ton of time to develop, a ton of time. These guys can go first round, first overall, and you still won't see them for 3 or 4 years into the MLB. So think about it. If you got a freshman in, how far behind they really are. More than likely, these guys, they threw a ton of gas in high school, and they're going up with guys that know how to hit gas. So now they've got to learn, how do I place my gas? How do I throw the one off-speed pitch that I have with control? And the only way you do that is by throwing it in games. So you're going to get tore up. You're going to get beat up. And there's a point where it's like, all right, look, we're already out of this. Let's work out a few things. So simmer down a little bit. All right, boys. Things are on the uptick, on the up and up.
Yeah, badminton takes time to get used to, man.
Yeah, Andrew, you lose a lot in baseball. Like that's just part of it. You play like you don't play. I don't know how many games they play in college, but they play. It's different. All right, it's just day in and day out. Like let's relax. Yeah, baseball team's totally fine, and that's a Mets guy. He knows what it's like to suck at baseball. If he's telling you that, and he's extremely negative about just Gator sports in general, just simmer down a little bit, boys. All right, just thought I'd just come in and just pump the brakes.
Think about the Yankees. They spend all that money and still can't win anything.
It's tough, man. Baseball's a different animal, dude. Baseball is a completely different animal. Like I see us kind of roasting Miami, which obviously I'm all ears for, but it's like it's baseball is the talent spreads out a little bit thinner. You can get a gym and you can get some guys that can the bats get hot. It's a little bit different. Boys and girls, I think it was a great show. Huh? I mean, on the road, Dave, what do you think? No Wi-Fi issues. I was concerned about that. I mean, we got the fire. My fire guy's fired. He's fired. Look at this.
Oh, look at that. What did you see? Boobs again?
No.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're right there in Blue Ridge.
Fucking fire guy.
I was gonna come up there and I was like, hey, I'm off this weekend. I could go visit Shelton and Blue Ridge. We'll have a couple of brewskis. You know what I'm saying? But you're going back tomorrow, man.
Yeah, I'm heading back. It's been a long time, and it's been nice. I feel like I've been here quite so damn long. I'm like becoming the people. You know what I mean? Like it's time for me to go. It's time for me to wrap this shit up because it's you start to lose touch with stuff when you've been here so damn long. So I was just here for the MIT jacket. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah. Why are you wearing that anyway?
It's my favorite hoodie, bro. It's my favorite hoodie.
Georgia Bulldog colors, man. Fuck that.
No, it's a different red. Different red.
Okay.
All right, boys. Well, I love you. Be good. We'll more likely see you tomorrow. I should be home at a decent time to get ready to rock and roll. We gotta go. We gotta figure it out. Hopefully, I can talk to some people, get some notes or whatever for the spring game tomorrow. Let's effing go, boys. It's here. We made it to the cold stretch. We're here. Coaching changes. It all should be good to go. I love you guys. Be sure to smash the like button. Subscribe. Until next time, I'm Sheldon.
The boy just reports the news.
Hey, boobies rule, baby.